By the year 2045, Earth has become a living nightmare. A colossal monsters over the ruins of civilization, its body a mass of dark muscle, jagged maws, and glaring red eyes. With a deafening roar, it lashes out, crushing steel and stone. The defense force is overwhelmed, and one soldier is sent flying as the monster advances. In the chaos, Commander Han Sung moves with deadly precision. When a massive tentacle crashes down, he slashes through it. He drops his blade, reloads mid-motion, and unloads round after round into the creature's exposed core. Without looking back, he orders a fallen soldier to get up and move. The terrified soldier obeys, scrambling after him. Han Sung charges forward, rifle blazing, leading the last defenders in a war that has ground humanity down for decades. As he pushes through the wreckage, his eyes lock onto a strange anomaly ahead. He realizes their final objective is right in front of him. Suddenly, the ground erupts in blinding golden light. Intricate magical patterns swirl around Han Sung, freezing him in place. Before he can react, he disappeared from the battlefield. He reappears suspended in midair inside a vast stone hall. Glowing golden chains bind his wrists and ankles as robed mans below celebrate the success of their summoning ritual, calling him an otherworldly hero. Han Sung struggles, staring in disbelief at the radiant shackles. An elderly man in ornate robes steps forward, calmly welcoming him to the Empire. He bows and pleads for Han Sung to defeat the Demon King and save their world. Han Sung snaps, demanding answers, shouting that he belongs in Korea, fighting his own war. The elder's face hardens. He activates the Oath of Restraint, unleashing magical lightning that tears through Han Sung's body. Screaming in agony, Han Sung is forced into submission as the elder coldly warns him to obey. Gasping for breath, Han Sung feels golden energy tighten around his neck like a leash. Wiping blood from his mouth, he stares in disbelief at the people who now control him. They offered him a sword and promised to send him back to his world if he succeeded. The request had felt less like a choice and more like an order wrapped in mercy. Han Sung had accepted. That decision marked the beginning of his life as the so-called otherworldly hero. The title was a lie. Instead of honor, he was treated as a servant, hauling carts and armor like a beast of burden. He fought endless battles, cutting down enemy after enemy. 3 years passed, then 5. Then 10. He gave up his entire youth to the blade, until it all ended in a final, titanic battle where he personally slew the Demon King of Valror. After the victory, Han Sung allowed himself to hope. Night after night he dreamed of returning home, believing his debt had finally been paid. But the old priest returned without a smile, his face cold and indifferent. There was no portal home, only another mission. When Han Sung protested that this wasn't their promise, the priest calmly replied that the Empire's unification still required more blood. The priest pointed to a torchlit bulletin board and a wanted poster for Badal of the Teutonia Night Kingdom. No more dissidents could be allowed to rise. Kill this final threat, and Han Sung would be free. When Han Sung hesitated, the magical collar around his neck ignited with searing pain, forcing obedience. In that moment, he understood the truth. A dog in a collar never chooses its master. They owned him completely. The memory shatters into the present. The Teutonia capital burns as Han Sung stands among the ruins, his blade buried in Badal's chest. The duel is over. Blood spills from the knight's lips as he looks up, not in hatred, but in pity. He calls Han Sung a fool. Han Sung, shaken, whispers that he had no choice and apologizes to the man he killed. Badal collapses to his knees and rejects the apology. With his final breath, he delivers a grim warning. Smiling faintly, he tells Han Sung that he will be discarded next. The light fades from his eyes, and his body falls, leaving Han Sung alone in the firelit wreckage. As the adrenaline drains, exhaustion sets in. Han Sung convinces himself it's finally over. He can go home. He looks to his hands, sensing someone approaching from behind. It's Count Brandenburg, clad in heavy ornate armor. Before Han Sung can turn, the air tightens. A magical force locks his neck in place. His eyes widen as a cold blade drives through his chest from behind, bursting from his breastplate in a spray of blood. Grand General Brandenburg twists the sword, his face curled into a cruel smile. Leaning close, he praises Han Sung's strength, not as a hero, but as the Empire's loyal hunting dog. Blood pours from Han Sung's mouth as the truth hits harder than the blade. The Empire never planned to honor their promise. It was all a lie. The sword tears through armor and flesh with ruthless finality. Brandenburg's voice is calm and dismissive, asking why anyone would keep a tool that has outlived its purpose. A hunting dog is only useful while it bites on command, and Han Sung's leash has been cut. His body crashes to the ground, vision fading as pain floods his shattered form. A mocking farewell echoes above him. The blade remains impaled in his torso, glowing with lethal blue energy, pinning him to the stone. As the light leaves his eyes, hatred keeps him conscious just long enough to swear an oath. He will never forget this betrayal. One day he will return, and drag this cursed empire into total annihilation. One life ends, and in the same moment, another begins. Han Sung snaps back to consciousness, but everything feels wrong. He's wrapped in cloth, his body heavy and unresponsive. A blinding light hits his eyes as voices announce the birth of a boy. A golden-haired woman cradles him, introducing herself as his mother, her gentle voice a stark contrast to the battlefield he just left. Behind her stands a tall man with long dark hair and predatory eyes. The moment Han Sung sees him, recognition hits. This is Duke Saxon, the Empire's most feared necromancer and black mage. The truth becomes clear instantly. He has been reborn inside the Black Tower, at the necropolis itself, the heart of the Empire's forbidden magic. His gamble succeeded. The Stone of Reincarnation, a forbidden artifact he kept as a last resort, activated. He didn't just survive, he was reborn as the first son of the Saxon ducal family, one of the most powerful bloodlines in the empire. Born with unlimited resources, Han Sung grins inwardly. Once he grows and masters necromancy, he will slaughter every imperial bastard who betrayed him. The room suddenly grows tense. The Duke notices something strange. The baby isn't crying. The Duchess looks down in concern. Han Sung is breathing fine, eyes wide and alert, but he refuses to wail. As a battle-hardened warrior, he finds crying beneath him. An elderly nanny steps in and confirms he's healthy. The Duke still worries that a silent newborn could be a bad omen. Smiling calmly, the nanny suggests a simple solution. If they want him to cry, they just need to make him. Without warning, she smacks his bottom. The sharp sting sends Han Sung into silent outrage, his mind exploding with curses as his dignity takes the real damage. The Duke watches closely, commenting that the child's stubborn resistance shows a strong will, clearly inherited from his father. The Duchess relaxes and asks to handle it herself. Inside, Han Sung panics, screaming that he's fine, but he's trapped in a helpless body. She raises her hand and brings it down gently, then begins patting his back in a slow, soothing rhythm. That warmth triggers something deep inside him. Memories surface, cold nights as a mercenary, sitting by dying campfires, surrounded by danger and loneliness. That harsh life clashes violently with the present moment. His mother's trembling hands radiate pure, unconditional love, something he hasn't felt in years. For a man who hasn't cried since childhood, the emotion overwhelms him. Unable to hold it back, Han Sung finally breaks down, crying loudly as his wails echo through the luxurious nursery. 8 years pass in the blink of an eye since Dale was born. Late at night, under the pale moonlight, the Duke and Duchess sit together in their bedroom. The Duke remarks on how fast time has flown, while his wife shifts the conversation to their son. She notes with pride and concern that Dale is still in the study, buried in books, just as he has been since the age of 4. Holding her hands, the Duke teasingly says Dale inherited his obsession with magic from her. Then, with a knowing look, she asks if he remembers the promise he made. In the vast library, Dale is shown sitting on the floor, surrounded by towering shelves, reading with unnatural focus for his age. Back in the bedroom, the Duke smiles and confirms he remembers clearly. He promised never to teach their son necromancy. The Duchess accepts this with a sly smile, hinting that he has already prepared a special birthday gift for Dale. Their quiet moment is abruptly interrupted by frantic knocking. A terrified maid bursts in, reporting that something is wrong with young Master Dale. The Duke's face hardens instantly, and both parents rush to the library. Inside, the room is in chaos. Dale collapses to the floor as violent blue mana erupts from his body, filling the air with crushing pressure and sending books flying. He cries out for his parents as the unstable energy spirals out of control. They arrive just as the mana fades. The Duchess rushes to him in panic, checking his body and demanding to know what happened. Exhausted and drenched in sweat, Dale forces a smile and claims he's fine. The Duke remains still, carefully observing the lingering mana. Narrowing his eyes, stunned by the idea that an 8-year-old could release mana on his own. The Duke's eyes glow red, shadows curling behind him as he demands to know if Dale truly released that power himself. Inside, Dale panics. He knows he revealed too much. To avoid suspicion, he quickly acts like a frightened child, staring up innocently. Suddenly, the Duke's aura vanishes. He breaks into a proud grin, releases Dale, and pats his head, declaring that this is exactly what he expected from his son. He even regrets that he can't personally teach him necromancy. Dale lowers his head, hiding his thoughts. If his father won't teach him necromancy, he wonders how he'll ever achieve his revenge. But he pushes the thought aside. Relieved, his mother tells him to return to his room while the servants clean up. Dale cheerfully agrees, masking his ambition behind a bright smile. As he leaves, he hears his father tell his mother Elena that he's finally decided on the perfect birthday gift. The scene then shifts to a grand, sunlit ballroom filled with nobles gathered for Dale's birthday banquet. The hall buzzes with conversation as guests note that nearly every noble of the Noir dukedom is present. Among the crowd, people casually wonder when the young master will finally make his appearance. The wait drags on as noise from the crowded banquet below fills the second-floor hall. Dale slumps in a velvet chair, already exhausted by the delayed ceremony and the sheer number of people celebrating his birthday. After a lifetime of cold isolation as a hero, being pampered as a noble's son feels deeply uncomfortable. His thoughts drift to the chaos in the library the day before. While rereading The Life of the Hero from Another World and recalling his past power, the mana in his young body spiraled out of control. The incident only confirmed one thing: this body has a natural affinity for necromancy, and ignoring it would be a waste. The real problem is his father. Dale remembers the Duke mentioning a special gift and wonders if that had been his chance to ask for dark magic training. The double doors suddenly open. Lady Elena enters in a dark blue gown, apologizing for the delay and wishing him a happy 8th birthday. Behind her stands a silent figure in brown robes. At Elena's signal, the stranger steps forward and removes her hood, revealing an elf with violet blue hair. She is introduced as Sophia, an elder of the Blue Magic Tower and a master of water magic. She calmly announces that she will be his teacher. Dale is stunned. Elena cheerfully explains that he will study water magic, a discipline centered on defense and control. To Dale, the message is obvious. His mother is blocking him from learning dark magic. Before the lesson begins, Sophia requests a private conversation. Elena agrees, and the two walk through the snowy grounds outside the manor. Sophia states plainly that she was ordered to teach only water magic, then confronts Dale directly, asking if he is disappointed. She knows he wants necromancy. Dale freezes as she explains the truth. When the Duke courted Elena, she feared his reputation as a dark mage. To marry her, he swore never to teach his dark arts to their children. The vow was so serious that even the elders of the Noir Magic Tower wore white at the wedding. Because of that promise, dark magic is forbidden to Dale, for now. Still, Sophia hints that she may help him change Elena's mind in the future. She offers to guide him, but Dale hesitates, pointing out that elves revere natural law and see necromancy as taboo. Sophia laughs and counters by a reminder that the priests resurrecting the dead, asking whether that is truly any different. To her, holy resurrection and necromancy are the same at their core. Dale realizes she is nothing like the rigid elves he expected. Her flexible mindset makes her an ideal mentor. Standing among the snow-covered trees, Sophia begins the lesson. She senses that Dale has already formed part of a mana circle and instructs him to complete it. Excitement surges through him. A full first circle is required for advanced magic. He places a hand over his heart and focuses. Blue energy crackles as his eyes glow with power, reminding him how different this world is from Earth. Mana fills the world like an endless ocean, but it is lethal without control. Humans survive it by forming a mana heart circle, a stabilizing pathway carved around the heart. Dale visualizes the process perfectly. The moment his understanding locks in, the air vibrates. Rings of bright blue light erupt from the snow, spiraling around him as his mana stabilizes instantly. Sophia begins her usual lecture, explaining that rotating mana is a delicate process that normally takes a month of meditation. Mid-sentence, she freezes. Standing before her, Dale is already surrounded by the stable glow of a completed mana circle. Calmly, Dale says he already finished. Sophia is left speechless. He has only just started training, yet a perfect circle is rotating inside him after mere minutes. Suspecting she may be facing a natural-born prodigy, she asks him to try releasing mana through the circle. Dale agrees and raises his hand. For beginners, releasing mana is extremely difficult, but Dale is different. He remembers his past life, when he was a warrior forced to use destruction magic through painful engravings because he lacked true magical affinity. Back then, he could never rival Duke Saxon. This time, however, he carries the blood and talent of the Noir Magic Tower Master. Mana doesn't resist him. It responds. Instead of releasing raw energy, Dale shapes it. He condenses the mana, forming a sharp diamond-like structure, imagining it as the weapon that will one day pierce the Empire's throat. Sophia watches in disbelief. Normally, a novice's mana collapses instantly once released. Instead, a fully crystallized ice bolt floats above Dale's palm. Dale worries he may have sacrificed power to maintain its form, then releases it. The bolt tears through the air and slams into a massive wooden stump. The impact is devastating. The stump doesn't crack. It explodes, splintering into thousands of frozen shards. The shockwave forces Sophia to brace herself as her hair whips back. When silence returns, only debris remains. The spell pierced straight through dense wood with terrifying precision. This level of power and control is impossible for an 8-year-old. A chill runs down Sophia's spine as she wonders what Dale truly is. The dangerous aura fades, and Dale turns to her with innocent concern, asking if he did something wrong. From Sophia's perspective, the spell was far from accidental. The mana followed a complex, lethal command structure. Rotation, acceleration, and extreme compression, forming a crystalline ice construct based on the golden ratio of military magic. Dale executed a perfectly lethal formula on his first attempt, completely unaware of its significance. Sophia smiles gently, but her mind races. Later, inside the Duke's estate, the atmosphere is heavy. Sophia sits across from Duke Saxon, who demands to know why she refuses to continue teaching his son. He insists that a child who reached the first circle in minutes is a prodigy. Sophia interrupts him and explains the truth. The moment Dale formed the first circle, he didn't merely cast a spell. He instinctively created a flawless killing formula. She recalls the image of the boy standing within a storm of blue magic, casting not for beauty or study, but for efficient destruction. She delivers her conclusion directly. Young Lord Dale is gifted at killing. The Duke freezes as her words sink in. He assumes that, as an elder of the non-violent Blue Magic Tower, her refusal is rooted in moral opposition. She corrects him at once, calmly sipping her tea. It's not that she refuses to teach the boy. She feels compelled to guide him personally, to ensure his talent doesn't become a curse. She recalls his innocent smile when he first summoned water, so different from the lethal ice he later produced. Seizing the moment, the Duke insists there's no reason she shouldn't teach him. Sophia counters that the boy already seems to possess the power he seeks, suggesting his path is already diverging from his father's wishes. The tension sharpens when she brings up the Duke's past, his love story, and the promise he made to Elena. Her gaze hardens as she rebukes him. Honoring the promise doesn't give him the right to decide the future of the living, especially not a child with such terrifying, transcendent talent. Outside the sealed doors, Dale sits against the wall, hugging his knees. Small and isolated in the vast hallway, he's cut off from the discussion shaping his fate. He strains to listen but hears nothing, assuming they're talking about him. Letting out a heavy sigh, he buries his face in his legs. His thoughts drift to the overwhelming power of his first spell and how it startled Sophia. He resolves to better control his output to avoid drawing dangerous attention. As his anxiety deepens, a shadow looms over him. Dale looks up to see a towering knight in full armor. His face lights up as he scrambles to his feet, calling out to Uncle Helmet. The rugged knight smiles, one hand resting casually on his neck. He asks why Dale is sitting on the floor, then teasingly Dale asks where Helmet has been instead. Ignoring the question, Dale rushes toward him. Helmet laughs, saying he's been away protecting the ducal family and slaying monsters, then lifts Dale into the air. Dale smiles, until his gaze falls on the knight's armor. In an instant, the childish look in his eyes vanishes, replaced by sharp, cold insight. He studies the scent and marks on the armor and states plainly that Helmet hasn't just been fighting monsters, he's been in a dungeon. In this world, dungeons and monster outbreaks are a constant threat. Even after the Demon King's fall, peace never came. Dragons, orcs, and skeletal beasts still ravage civilian lands. To hold them back, each territory's knights devote their lives to clearing unexplored dungeons or exterminating monsters that spill out during dungeon breaks. The Duchy of Saxon suffers more than any other. Ironically, this crisis is the result of the boy now living within its walls. In his past life as the otherworldly hero, he defeated the Demon King, triggering a political decision that forced Duke Saxon to absorb the Demon King's territory. In effect, the duchy became the dumping ground for the monsters left behind by the war. He warns Uncle Helmet to be careful, earning a warm laugh. When Helmet asks if he's worried, Dale simply remarks that he looks healthy. The estate's grand doors open as the staff, led by Duke Saxon, welcomes Helmet with formal respect. The Duchess, radiant in a blue gown, rushes forward and pulls Dale into a tight embrace, proudly celebrating the news that he's reached the first circle of magic. Standing behind her, the Duke congratulates his son and grants him a reward, anything he wants. Dale considers asking to learn necromancy, but immediately discards the idea. It would expose him as far too calculating for a child. He needs something innocent. Putting on a perfectly childish expression, he declares that what he wants is a little sister. The reaction is immediate. The Duke and Duchess turn bright red, completely flustered by the bold request, while Uncle Helmet turns away, his shoulders shaking as he struggles not to laugh. Later that night, with the moon hanging over the castle city, Dale lies alone in his bedroom and finally drops the act. Exhausted from pretending to be a child and from using magic earlier, he stretches out and drifts towards sleep. Suddenly, a sharp pain grips his chest, dragging his consciousness into a nightmare from his past. In the vision, rain pours down as Brandenburg grips Hansung by the throat. The man mocks him for becoming soft in this new life, surrounded by warmth and loving parents. A cold voice warns that the Empire has not forgotten him and will hunt him down until he is completely erased. Dale jolts awake, gasping for air as blue arcs of mana explode around his body. His heart feels like it's about to burst. He immediately recognizes it as a mana rampage, an uncontrollable and potentially fatal surge of power. Forcing himself to move through the pain, he staggers into the hallway, scorching the walls as mana leaks from him. Cursing the Empire, he pushes outside into the freezing night, hoping the cold will suppress the raging energy. It only makes things worse. The pain sharpens, his aura growing more violent until he collapses into the snow, clutching his chest as his vision fades. Just before he blacks out, a calm voice calls to him. Standing before him is Sophia. After a brief look of surprise, she immediately identifies his condition as a mana rampage. As she raises her hand to stabilize the energy, she senses the terrifying potential hidden inside him. The violent mana slowly retracts into Dale's body, leaving the air humming with residual power. The danger passes, but Sophia watches him carefully, realizing that if his emotions had turned malicious, the damage would have been irreversible. "Dale," she calls. "Yes?" he answers weakly. She explains that magic is a mirror of one's heart, which is why each mage's magic is unique. Then she delivers a chilling assessment. His talent lies in taking lives, a power far too dangerous to leave unchecked. Because of that, she produces a thick azure-bound tome sealed with silver clasps and hands it to him. Dale accepts it and immediately recognizes the symbol on its cover, a necromancy spellbook. Smiling warmly, Sophia tells him it may be fate that she will teach him from now on. She wishes him a happy birthday and pulls him into a gentle embrace. Days later, outside the northern gate, the two walk across a frozen plain toward a distant tower. Dressed in white, Dale looks to his teacher. "Rabbits?" "Yes." Ahead, a snow-white rabbit sits still. Sophia instructs him to remember hunting with his father. Dale raises his hand as blue mana flares to life, magic circles spinning rapidly in the air. "Yes, master," he replies calmly. A concentrated beam of blue energy fires from his palm, striking the ground. The impact erupts into a massive pillar of azure flames, blasting snow and debris outward and leaving a crater where the rabbit once sat. As the smoke clears, Sophia studies the destruction. Despite killing, his hands never trembled. She turns to him and explains that even the same spell takes countless forms depending on the mage. Then she asks if he knows why. Dale looks up at her, his face blank. "I do not." "Magic," Sophia explains. is nothing more than a reflection of the caster's mind. As she raises her hand, electricity and mana crackle between her fingers, proving her point. Magic manifests the heart's inner image through mana particles, inevitably exposing one's true nature. Dale watches in silence, sweat forming at his temple. She continues, explaining that spell names like Firewall are merely tools to solidify imagination. Even the magic towers operate the same way. The red magic tower values order through raw power, which she demonstrates with an image of a mage engulfed in violent flames. The blue magic tower, by contrast, seeks order through harmony, represented by calm, flowing water. Each tower's philosophy directly shapes the form of its magic. She explains the structure of magical society. Beyond the red and blue towers, there are also the noir, white, and green magic towers. She stops when she notices Dale's blank stare, his confusion obvious. Amused, she sighs and admits the topic is still too advanced for him. Dale focuses on the dead hair lying in the snow as dark violet mana coils around his hand. Basic necromancy is simply the art of control. He visualizes invisible mana strings connecting his fingers to the corpse, guiding the skull, stabilizing the spine, and moving the legs. He pulls. Purple miasma engulfs the hair. Its limbs snap into place, and it rises unnaturally, crimson light glowing in its eyes. Sophia praises him and immediately asks if he can continue. Dale answers without hesitation. The necromantic energy fades as he shifts mana types. A blue magic circle forms, glyphs spinning rapidly. He casts frozen armor, his left eye glowing sapphire as moisture in the air freezes instantly. Jagged ice erupts and encases the undead hair in a thick shell. She inspects the construct and notes that the spell's form is solid. Then, smiling dangerously, she prepares to test it. A beam of pure magic fires from her hand. Dale reinforces the spell with all his strength as the attack slams into the ice, exploding in snow and light. When the mist clears, the hair is still standing. The armor is cracked but intact. Dale gasps for breath, then beams with pride, thrilled that he blocked her attack. She commends him and notices his lingering excitement, asking what he wants. Dale eagerly requests further instruction in water attribute magic. Her smile disappears instantly. She refuses. Shocked, Dale can only stare as she explains that what he used today was merely basic water magic. Mastery of the attribute requires far deeper understanding. Most beginners struggle to learn even one type of magic. Those who wield two are called dual mages, and at his age, that level of control is nearly impossible. From her perspective, his request is nothing more than excessive ambition. Dale's demeanor shifts in an instant. The childish enthusiasm disappears, replaced by crushing pressure as dark mana crackles around him and his eyes darken. His voice drops as he questions the word, greed. Dale slumps, looking up with watery eyes and feigned hurt, questioning whether everything he has shown is still not enough. He reminds her that she promised they would move forward together. Guilt pierces her composure. Sweating and flustered, she abruptly ends the lesson and retreats, leaving him alone in the snow. That night, Dale returns to the silent study carrying heavy grimoires. The act is gone. Convinced he can do everything on his own, he vows to prove himself so completely that she'll have no choice but to teach him. As he sets the books down, a sudden surge of agony hits. Uncontrolled purple energy erupts from his body, forcing him to collapse to his knees as his vision blurs and consciousness slips. A voice calls his name, growing louder through the haze. The aura flickers, then vanishes. Dale snaps back to awareness in the dark room, staring ahead with hollow eyes and deep bags beneath them. The next day, the snow-covered forest is quiet as Sophia walks beside him, clearly worried by his exhausted appearance. Dale admits he stayed up all night preparing something. She warns him not to overdo it. He smiles obediently and agrees. Without warning, Dale stops and raises his hand. Dark mana forms a complex purple magic circle, and a massive ice construct rises cleanly from the frozen ground. Sophia notes that he has already mastered the spell's form, but the casting doesn't end there. The construct begins to shudder. Cracks glow across its surface before it violently detonates from within. As the debris settles, a rabbit infused with violet energy remains at the center. Its eyes glow red as necrotic power swells inside it. A moment later, it explodes. A devastating shockwave of dark energy and jagged ice tears through the clearing. Sophia barely manages to raise a blue hexagonal barrier as frozen shards and bone fragments slam into it like bullets. When the storm fades, the ground is gouged into a crater, choked with lingering miasma. At the center stands Dale, calmly holding a swirling sphere of blue and violet energy. He proudly explains that he fused Ice Explosion's water attribute with Corpse Explosion's dark attribute and asks if that makes him a dual mage. Sophia stays silent as she processes what she's seen. The technique is unlike anything she knows. By combining fragmentation with explosive force, he turned the debris itself into lethal weapons. For a moment, she doesn't see a child, but the shadow of a battle-hardened killer, magic designed purely for slaughter. She wonders what kind of mindset could produce such violence. Dale notices her stare and tilts his head innocently. Then his attention snaps elsewhere. The dark aura vanishes, replaced by childlike excitement as he calls out to Uncle Helmet. From the trees, a formation of heavily armored knights rides in. At their head is a smiling man with dark hair and glasses atop a warhorse. Helmet greets Dale and Sophia, confirming their return from a dungeon raid and praising the cavalry behind him. The knights sit tall and unmoving, their armor gleaming in the cold light. These are the elite of the Dukedom of Saxon, warriors who wield aura-coated lances. Leading them is their captain, Sir Helmet, one of the continent's legendary 7 swordmasters, whose presence alone commands the battlefield. Dale clasps his hands together, smiling brightly as he looks up at Helmet on horseback. He reminds him about their promise to teach sword techniques, making sure it hasn't been forgotten. Helmet laughs, telling the boy not to worry and warning him not to stay out in the freezing cold. As Uncle Helmet rides off across the snow-covered plains, Dale waves enthusiastically, wishing him a safe journey. Sophia quietly suggests they head back inside, and Dale nods, turning away from the vast white fields to follow his master toward the towering castle in the distance. That night, the warmth of the castle's drawing room contrasts sharply with the cold outside. Tea pours into a porcelain cup as Duke Saxon questions Sophia about her report. Calm and composed, Sophia confirms the shocking news. Young Master Dale has already mastered his first magic circle in both necromancy and water magic. Duke Saxon's expression darkens, reminding her that she was only instructed to teach water magic. Sophia admits she went beyond those limits, explaining that Dale's hunger for knowledge pushed her to teach him more than elemental spells. Instead of anger, Duchess Elena simply asks that the water magic lessons continue. Sophia agrees, apologizes to Duke Saxon for breaking her promise, and quietly leaves. Once alone, Elena sinks back in her chair, overwhelmed by the reality that their 8-year-old son has become a dual mage. Duke Saxon admits that Dale's talent sometimes frightens even him. Rising to his feet, the Duke makes a firm decision. He will personally take over Dale's education and teach him necromancy himself. In his mind, he sees Dale not as a child, but as a future lord inheriting his power and legacy. He apologizes to Elena for the harsh path ahead. Elena explains that necromancy is feared as the magic of death, but Dale must become strong enough to stand above that fear. Elena leans into his touch, silently giving her trust. With her consent, Duke Saxon swears to train their son to be the best. In the cold, oppressive underground magic workshop, thick with dark mana, Dale stands rigid as his father scolds him for reviving life without fully understanding the power he used. Panic floods Dale's thoughts. He was only using the techniques his previous teacher showed him. On a ritual table nearby, a small white rabbit twitches, the crude result of his spell. Clicking his tongue, Duke Saxon raises a glowing purple finger and forbids Dale from ever using such basic necromancy again while under his instruction. Surrounded by towering shelves of ancient tomes, Dale sits at a desk far too big for him as his father issues his first command. He must memorize the bone and muscle structures of all living beings. The books are dense medical texts that would challenge even trained doctors, but Dale silently accepts the task. He studies until his eyes burn, engraving every diagram and term into his memory. When he finishes, Duke Saxon finally gives an approving nod. The theory is complete. Now, they move on to practical magic. Dale's excitement returns when his father produces a grimoire radiating dark energy, but it vanishes the moment he sees what lies on the stone table: a lifeless goblin corpse. The sight of a real body freezes him in place. Duke Saxon explains that the quality of materials means nothing compared to the skill of the necromancer. A master can turn even an ordinary soldier into a disaster. He orders Dale to animate the goblin. Gathering his dark mana, Dale steps forward as purple energy crackles around his hand. He quickly realizes a bipedal corpse is far more complex than a rabbit. As he weaves mana strings into the goblin's body, he makes a fatal mistake. By accelerating post-mortem rigidity to boost defense, he locks the corpse's joints. The mana threads snap and the goblin jerks stiffly, moving like a broken puppet with rusted hinges. Dale freezes, overwhelmed by the lesson, and turns to his father for help. His father steps in, placing a pale hand on the goblin's chest. He agrees with Dale's defensive logic, but points out its fatal weakness, mobility, and tells him to watch closely. Dark mana erupts from his hand, wrapping the goblin corpse in a violent swirl of amethyst light. The body lifts into the air as the magic pierces deep beneath its skin. His father calmly explains that rib cages exist to protect organs, but the dead have no need for organs. With a sickening rhythm, the goblin's torso twists and reshapes. Ribs crack, invert, and burst outward. No longer shields, but weapons. Bones elongate and sharpen, extending from the chest and arms like scythes. He demonstrates the core principle of necromancy. Understand the structure only so it can be violated, reshaping biology to serve the caster's will. The goblin drops to the ground, no longer a stiff corpse but a spiked monstrosity looming in purple gloom. Dale stares, terrified and awed by the brutal efficiency of black magic. Realizing this is its foundation, he looks up and asks to learn the true mindset of the Noir Magic Tower. His father smiles, a sharp, chilling expression, and kneels to meet his gaze, resting a hand on Dale's shoulder. He whispers that truth exists within death, and to reach it, one must understand the crushing weight of life. As the lesson settles, Dale's mind shifts to a vision. Dale in armor stands in a raging inferno, eyes filled with sorrow. The world becomes fire and ash. A broken man kneels, pressing his forehead to scorched ground, begging for mercy and calling out to the hero. Towering over him is a man clad in jagged black armor, eyes glowing crimson. Without hesitation, Dale raises a massive, blood-soaked blade. The sword falls. The world turns red. "Dale!" The voice tears him from the nightmare. Dale gasps awake in his dim room. Duke Saxon stands beside him, a hand resting on the boy's shoulder. "Are you all right?" the Duke Saxon asks, concern threading his calm tone. Dale stares blankly. The image of the blood-stained knight still burned into his mind. Sweat cools on his skin as he forces his breathing to steady. "I'm fine, father," he says, crushing the memory down. But outside the castle, the storm has already begun. As Dale's magical training continues, the news spreads across the empire. Duke Saxon has broken his vow and begun teaching his son dark magic. The revelation sends shockwaves through the nobility, shattering the empire's fragile balance. Now, every eye turns to the child at the center of the scandal. Weeks later, the focus shifts to physical training. On the dukedom's training grounds, dust erupts as wooden swords collide with bone-shaking force. Dale darts beneath a heavy swing from Helmet. Helmet grins as he attacks without restraint. His blows are crushing, yet Dale meets each one head-on. Mana sparks and wood splinters scatter as their weapons clash in rapid succession. Helmet unleashes a devastating overhead strike. Dale blocks, but the weight sends him skidding across the dirt. He tumbles, rolls, and instantly regains his footing, digging his heels in to stop himself. Then, suddenly, Helmet's grip slips. His sword flies from his hands and stabs into the ground. Helmet freezes, eyes wide in shock. Dale stands a short distance away, panting, weapon raised. "Not bad, young master," Helmet laughs, raising his hands. Dale glares at him, breathing hard. "There's no way a knight like you would drop his sword," he says. "You let go on purpose, didn't you?" Helmet immediately denies it and walks over to retrieve his sword, stating that since Dale used real battlefield techniques, an ordinary person would have been killed in a single exchange. As Dale grips the hilt, a sharp pain shoots through his hand. His fingers tremble, red and numb from Helmet's parry. Staring at his shaking palm, he hides his shock. Helmet admits that Dale's swordsmanship is so exceptional, it's a shame he's a mage. He approaches Dale, who is rewrapping his hands as the sun sets over the training grounds. Helmet points out that mages are always protected by escort knights and asks why Dale trains this hard, kneeling to check his injured wrists and telling him there's no need to push himself to injury. Dale answers confidently, tightening his bandaged fist. He says it wouldn't be fitting for the Duke's son to rely solely on guards or defensive magic, and adds that he couldn't pass up the chance to learn swordsmanship from one of the continent's 7 swordmasters. Helmet freezes, then bursts into loud laughter, praising Dale's answer and declaring that if he had a son like him, he'd have no regrets. Dale smirks, amused that he finally earned praise from him. Their moment is interrupted by approaching footsteps. An elegant woman in a green dress appears, commenting on their high spirits. Dale's attitude instantly softens as he happily greets his mother and worries about her being out in the cold. She smiles warmly, saying she came to see how hard her son was working. The scene fades into a memory filled with sunlight and the scent of wood near the training grounds. Dale recalls his mother gently teasing him about a birthday wish he once made. He recalled what happened. He had asked for a little sister. His mother had smiled, already pregnant, and told him he would need to protect her. Young Dale had eagerly agreed. 10 months pass in an instant. In the master bedroom, Dale leans over the bed, staring in awe at the baby wrapped in white cloth. He pokes her cheek in wonder, amazed that this tiny, fragile being is his sister. His mother asks if he wants to hold her, sending Dale into panic as he doubts his own clumsiness. Encouraged by his laughing mother, he nervously takes her into his arms. As her weight settles, his fear fades. His mother remarks that the baby looks just like him. As if understanding, the infant smiles brightly. His mother claps in surprise, noting that the baby usually cries with her but seems perfectly content in Dale's arms. Dale beams with pride. His father then asks how he feels. Dale answers seriously that while she is light, she feels incredibly heavy. His father places a hand on his shoulder and explains that this is the weight of life, a burden and a blessing he must never forget. He then reminds Dale that Master Sephia is waiting for his lesson. The warm memory dissolves into the icy cold of a snowy forest. Dale stands among frost-covered trees, facing Master Sephia, her blue hair standing out against the white landscape. She announces that today's lesson will shift to real combat. When Dale asks if he can truly fight seriously, she calmly orders him not to hesitate and to attack her with everything he has. Dale focuses as magic circles ignite around his hands. He releases his mana, sending blue energy forward. Sephia moves instantly, forming a volatile sphere of magic and swatting his attack aside with ice and force, sending a shockwave through the snow. She counters immediately, criticizing his first strike for being too slow. She catches a fragment of his magic and crushes it effortlessly, her smile turning predatory as she scolds him for holding back. Dark blue energy swells around her as she warns him to raise a barrier at once. Realizing the danger too late, Dale hurriedly forms a hexagonal shield of light just as her attack crashes down. The impact cracks his barrier and rattles his bones, ice rapidly forming along his arm. He grimaces, knowing a single mistake would have meant serious injury. Sephia observes that he managed to form ice armor in that instant and praises him sincerely. Dale pants in the clearing, broken magic falling from his clothes as he steadies himself. Sephia straightens and commands him to attack again. Dale drops low and activates a molecular combination spell. The ground shakes as a massive wall of blue ice erupts behind Sephia, towering over the trees. She spins around in surprise, confused by the use of a static ice wall in a high-speed fight. Examining it, she realizes the mana density is abnormally high. As she touches the surface, cracks of glowing hexagonal light spread through the ice. She recoils, recognizing it as a containment structure, not a wall. The spell rapidly shifts into a frost explosion fragmentation formula. From a distance, Dale quietly whispers, "Detonate." The mana structure collapses. In the next instant, a blinding sphere of blue light swallows Sophia as she realizes too late that the ice wall is essentially a massive grenade. The compressed ice, reinforced beyond its limit, releases all its stored energy at once. The forest erupts as a violent shockwave of shattered ice and raw mana tears outward. Dale dives behind a jagged ice barrier, bracing against the blast. As the debris settles, he peers out, his heart pounding. It worked. By overcompressing the ice wall and detonating it, the hardened molecules became lethal shrapnel, a perfectly executed magical grenade. It'll be hard to dodge that, master, he thinks, torn between pride and worry. Thick white mist drifts through the trees. Dale calls out, his voice unsteady. "Master Sophia?" A silhouette forms in the fog. For a split second, Sophia looks monstrous, bathed in ominous blue light, her expression cold and vengeful. Dale freezes in terror, stammering her name. Then the image vanishes. "You called?" Sophia says cheerfully as she steps out of the haze, completely unharmed, faint magical energy still fading from her fingers. Dale exhales in relief, realizing the demonic vision was likely born from his own guilt. Sophia touches her face and winces. A thin line of blood runs down her cheek. She studies it, then smiles in surprise. "That was impressive, Dale," she says, wiping the cut away. "I never imagined a first circle mage could actually wound an elder of the magic tower." Dale stiffens. "I never meant to hurt you, master." "I know," Sophia replies softly, kneeling in the snow to meet his eyes as the winter sun sinks low, casting long violet shadows across the field. "But I'm grateful for this wound. It means you trusted me enough to use your full strength." Dale blinks, stunned. Sophia smiles brightly. "As your master, that makes me prouder than anything." "Really? Of course. You're an excellent student." She gently ruffles his hair. Dale relaxes, leaning into her hand with a relieved smile, crediting her teaching. Sophia says nothing more, simply watching him with deep satisfaction. Later, inside the warm luxury of the mansion, Duke Saxon reviews documents behind a grand desk while Sophia stands before him. His eyes immediately catch the bandage on her cheek. "Why are you injured?" he asks. Sophia touches the spot lightly. "This? I was careless. It happened while teaching the young master. His formula was extremely sharp." Duke Saxon sighs, exhaustion flickering across his face. "I'm always indebted to you, Sophia." "Nonsense," she replies cheerfully. "Teaching a talented student like him is a joy." Duke Saxon speaks again, his tone turning serious. "May I make one more request?" "Of course," Sophia answers. He delivers an urgent report. Intelligence confirms that an orc warband has crossed the mountains and breached their territory. The Duke scoffs. To him, a stray orc group is insignificant, something a small cavalry unit could erase. His reflection in the window, eyes glowing crimson, mirrors his ruthless confidence. But his boredom fades as he reveals his real intention. He plans to send Dale. Sophia's composure breaks. She steps forward in alarm, sweat forming as she argues that Dale is not ready for real combat. The Duke remains unmoved. He assures her the boy won't be placed on the front lines, but his stance is absolute. Protecting the territory is the sacred duty of House Saxon. A purple aura flares around him, crushing in its authority. As the heir, Dale must learn this responsibility. There are no exceptions. Realizing she can't change his mind, Sophia lowers her gaze and asks what her role will be. The Duke smiles faintly. He intends to entrust Dale with his personal artifact. Sophia is ordered to guide the boy and stabilize him until he can withstand the artifact's overwhelming power. They walk toward the family vault as the weight of history presses down on the corridor. Artifacts are not tools. They are entities with will, demanding a price in mana or life itself. Visions of mages bleeding from their eyes and warriors consumed by cursed power underscore the danger. The stronger the artifact, the deadlier it becomes. Yet House Saxon has long mastered the art of subjugating such darkness. The Duke, Sophia, and a wide-eyed Dale stop before the towering doors of the artifact vault. The Duke tells Dale that, as the heir, he must prepare for battle. Dale's response isn't fear, it's excitement. His eyes shine with thrill, a real fight at last. Duke Saxon explains that he will join the subjugation force to eliminate the orcs, but the Duke adds a condition. Before Dale can fight, he must learn to control the darkness of their bloodline. The vault doors open, revealing a vast cathedral-like chamber. Endless shelves rise into the shadows, glass cases displaying crowns, jewels, and weapons radiating a sinister red aura. Dale stares in awe. Duke Saxon explains that these are Demon King artifacts, spoils taken when their ancestors conquered the Demon King's domain. The Duke warns Dale never to compare them to ordinary magic items. The mana they emit is intense, dangerous, and unforgiving. Until he learns control, he is forbidden from touching anything recklessly. The warning comes too late. When Sophia and the Duke turn around, the space beside them is empty. The Duke scans the vault in confusion, stunned that the boy vanished in a single breath. Deep inside the vault, Dale strolls alone, studying the display cases. His presence stirs the dormant malice within the artifacts. Whispers creep into his mind as the relics call out, tempting him with power and revenge. A shield throbs, sensing his hatred and urging him to kill. A jeweled necklace pleads with him, promising they could rise to greater heights together. Dale listens with bored eyes. He acknowledges the darkness resonating with his own resentment, then dismisses them with a smirk. None of them are enough. Adjusting his tie, he decides he needs something far stronger. His attention shifts to a lone mannequin draped in a jet-black cloak. Dale freezes, recognizing it instantly. It is the Shadow Cloak, a top-grade artifact once worn by Duke Berta of the Demon King's army during the Heroes era. Legends say it gives physical form to shadows, turning its wearer into a living nightmare. Without hesitation, Dale throws it over his shoulders and fastens it with a grin. The reaction is immediate. The Duke spots him across the vault and shouts his name, but it's already too late. The moment the cloak settles, the air screams. A violent torrent of pitch-black energy erupts, engulfing Dale as the artifact asserts its presence. Within the artifact's abyssal consciousness, a voice howls endlessly. It is pure hunger, echoing through the void. Dale floats in the darkness as the entity repeatedly demands to be fed. The Shadow Cloak is no ordinary relic. It can summon storms of shadow and command darkness like a living beast. History speaks of its devastation, but to wield it, the host must do more than wear it. They must completely subdue the creature within. Mid-laughter, the shadow suddenly snaps, biting down viciously on Dale's ankle. Without breaking his smile or conversation, Dale slams his heel into the ground, crushing the shadow back into submission. He politely thanks his uncle for the concern. Then Dale grows serious. He asks for a real sparring match. Helmet is startled but agrees. He draws his massive sword, and a terrifying blue aura erupts from his body like a storm. Declaring he won't hold back, Helmet prepares himself. Dale stands firm as his cloak whips in the violent energy, fully aware that facing one of the continent's 7 swordmasters may be far beyond his current limits. Helmet stands relaxed, his massive frame casting a long shadow as he rests his great sword on his shoulder. With a confident, almost playful smile, he tells Dale not to be afraid and promises to fight using only basic swordsmanship, completely suppressing his aura. Dale scowls at the idea of being underestimated, but Helmet's next step erases any thought of mercy. As he moves forward, the stone beneath his feet groans under his weight, proving that even his basic strength is monstrous. Declaring that a knight must always fight sincerely, Helmet prepares himself. For Dale, this spar isn't about knightly ideals. It's a test of his new artifact, the Shadow Cloak, and the weapons he can forge from its living darkness. Dale activates the artifact, and violet energy thickens the air around him. He launches Shadow Blade Rush, causing the cloak to burst into a swarm of razor-sharp tendrils that shoot toward Helmet. Helmet's eyes widen in real surprise as the spikes force him to swing defensively. Steel clashes against hardened shadow, the impact shaking the air, and Helmet's interest is fully piqued. Now intrigued, Helmet shifts to offense. He leaps high and brings his great sword down with a roar, putting his full weight into the strike. Dale looks up and commands the shadows to surge upward. The collision is deafening as the blade crashes into a wall of dark energy. The ground beneath Dale fractures from the pressure, forcing a grunt from him, but the defense holds. Helmet lands in shock, sweat trailing down his face as he realizes the boy blocked a blow that would have cleaved ordinary weapons in half. Dale, breathless but uninjured, understands just how terrifyingly durable his top-tier artifact truly is. The successful block only excites Helmet further. Laughing loudly, he demands 10 more exchanges and resumes his assault with renewed ferocity. The watching knights stand frozen in terror, sweating as they witness a child enduring an onslaught that would have crushed them in seconds. They feel an overwhelming wall separating their limits from Dale's potential. During a brief lull, Dale glances back at them, genuinely confused by their horrified expressions. Days later, the heat of training gives way to the cold silence of deployment night. Dale stands beside his horse under the moonlight, the winter air biting into him. His mother stands before him, holding a sleeping infant, her face tight with worry. She threatens to confront his father again, admitting she can't bear the thought of sending him into danger. Dale reassures her that his father and Uncle Helmet will protect him, but she tearfully asks what will happen if he gets hurt. With a seriousness far beyond his age, Dale tells her he must grow stronger, not for glory, but to one day shoulder the burden of the dukedom. He gently touches the cheek of his sleeping sister Liz, and explains that he needs this experience now so he can protect his family in the future. Looking into his mother's eyes, he asks her to trust him and allow him to become strong enough to shield them all. Seeing his unwavering resolve, her resistance finally breaks. She gives him a sad yet proud smile and grants her permission. At sunrise, Dale sits atop his horse and offers his mother a calm, reassuring smile, promising to return soon. By dawn, the temporary base is filled with silent ranks of steel and waiting mounts. A soldier reports that the troops are ready. The famed Black Cavalry stands in formation, their dark armor absorbing the morning light. Duke Saxon turns to Dale and orders him to give the command to march in his place. Stunned, Dale asks for confirmation. Duke Saxon gestures to the army and tells him that this cavalry will one day be his. These are not just House Saxon soldiers, they are Dale's knights. The weight of true leadership hits him hard. Gripping the reins, his shock turns into resolve. This will be his first battle as their leader, and he vows not to repeat the mistakes of the past. The shadow manifests as a massive, formless mass of violet sludge and malice towering over the boy. It scoffs at him, sensing resistance, and refuses to submit. Jagged claws and massive jaws form as it attacks, trying to tear into his mind. Dale doesn't flinch. His eye shines with piercing blue light as his will slams head-on against the artifact's hunger. Back in the vault, the atmosphere turns suffocating. The Duke and Sophia watch in horror as a sphere of black energy swallows Dale. Time is running out. The Duke realizes that if this continues, his son's mind will shatter and be devoured. Panic grips him. His hand glows with magic as he prepares to forcibly pull Dale out. Just as he reaches forward, the chaos ends. The energy doesn't explode. It collapses inward, wrapping neatly around a small frame. Dale steps out calmly, the shadow cloak resting obediently on his shoulders. He smiles up at his stunned father, answering the call as if he had simply wandered off. Sophia rushes to him, frantically checking for injuries. Dale casually assures her he's fine, saying it only stung a little. He grins and touches his cheek, leaving the adults speechless. They can't comprehend how a child endured the malice of such an artifact and emerged unscathed. As they struggle to process it, Dale tugs on his father's sleeve and asks, cheeks flushed and eyes bright, if he can try the other artifacts too. The Duke and Sophia are left stunned, their grave worries shattered by the boy's innocent greed. Defeated, the Duke reluctantly agrees. Dale thanks him enthusiastically and immediately dashes deeper into the vault. That day turns into an all-day and night spree of artifact testing. Days later, under the bright sun of the ducal training grounds, Helmut stares in disbelief. Dale stands casually, wrapped in the infamous black cloak. Helmut recognizes it instantly and asks if Dale is truly all right, reminding him the shadow cloak is notorious for rejecting its users. Dale waves it off, saying it only causes a mild prickling sensation. Dale looks down at his shadow pooled at his feet and muses that the creature was probably just lonely after being sealed away for so long. The shadow forms a small, jagged face with glowing eyes and teeth, clinging to him like a pet. Dale suggests it simply wanted a friend. Helmut laughs nervously, finding the idea absurdly kind. Dale raises his fist and commands the swords of Saxon to march. The response is immediate and thunderous as hundreds of soldiers roar in unison, lifting their lances in salute. The operation mobilizes 250 cavalry alongside the elite Winter Wardens. Their target is a force of roughly 1,000 orcs fleeing winter famine across the mountains. Intelligence places the horde moving downstream along the Saxon River, creating a rare chance for interception. The plan requires crossing the lower river and attacking from an unexpected direction. However, the river is a raging torrent, seemingly impassable. Sophia politely asks them to move aside as blue mana gathers in her palm. Dale watches with open excitement and greets her warmly. Despite her creed of harmony and nonviolence, Sophia steps in to support her student. Magic erupts around her in a brilliant, icy shockwave. She reaches toward the raging river, and it obeys. Towering sheets of ice race across the water, crashing together until a solid, gleaming bridge forms over the chasm. Turning back, she signals the army. The path is open. Duke Saxon offers his thanks as the cavalry thunders across the frozen span. Sophia then faces Dale, her expression softening. She bids him farewell, her role complete. Dale passes her in silence. As the army advances, she lingers, watching his back with a wistful smile, wondering how a single student could weigh so heavily on a master's heart. Night blankets the valley where the orcs are camped. Unaware of the danger above, they gather around their fires. Without a sound, the Winter Wardens strike. Dozens of flaming arrows arc through the darkness, crashing into the camp like meteors. Tents explode in fire. Orcs scream as they burn or are pinned by blazing shafts. A massive orc leader roars, trying to rally his kin, but chaos consumes the camp. From the tree line, Helmut seizes the moment, ordering the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd battalions into a wedge. The ground begins to tremble as the horses surge into a full charge. Riding within the formation, Dale feels no fear, only calculation. He notes the rhythm of the hooves, the speed surpassing 40 kilometers per hour, and the combined mass of armored riders and mounts. As the 3-meter lances lock into place, he recognizes the terrifying power of the Kull lance formation and knows the impact will be devastating. Violet darkness floods the battlefield. A knight wrapped in volatile energy crashes forward like a living siege engine. Magic amplifies his body beyond mortal limits, and under this onslaught, the orcs' crude defenses collapse instantly. From the ridge above, Dale watches in awe. This isn't a battle, it's a slaughter. He remarks on how one-sided it is. Beside him, Duke Saxon calmly agrees, calling this force the pride of the duchy's cavalry. But Helmut warns Dale not to lower his guard yet. Below, the momentum shifts. The ambush succeeds, but the sheer number of orcs prevents total annihilation. Helmut sees the fight dragging on. He signals to withdraw, deciding to regroup and grind the enemy down with rotating charges instead of a prolonged clash. A pillar of white light shoots into the sky, the signal to retreat. Orders echo through the chaos as knights pull back, hooves kicking up ash and dust, but not everyone escapes. One knight is isolated near the canyon wall as his horse falters. 2 massive orcs close in. He tries to raise his weapon, but it's too late. A spear slams down, crushing through his armor and driving into his leg, pinning him to his mount. His scream echoes as blood sprays across the rocks. He collapses helplessly, another orc rushing in with a jagged cleaver to finish him. Dale gasps from the ridge. Duke Saxon only narrows his eyes, coldly calling it unfortunate. 1 knight lost. To him, the sword of House Saxon is already broken. Dale turns in anger, demanding to know why they're doing nothing. No one answers. He realizes he can't reach the canyon in time. Closing his eyes, Dale turns inward. If he can't cross the distance physically, he'll do it with magic. But a normal spell won't suffice. Orc hide is thick, tougher than ordinary monsters. From this range, he needs absolute precision and overwhelming piercing power. Dale's mana erupts as he dismantles the standard ice bolt in his mind. He visualizes a high-caliber sniper rifle, the Barrett and a Lapua Magnum round, and rewrites the spell with a ballistic trajectory built for extreme velocity and stability. He isn't casting magic anymore. He's engineering a projectile. His eyes snap open. A layered blue magic circle forms in midair, and the atmosphere trembles as the spell fires. A beam of azure light rips across the battlefield in an instant, freezing the air behind it. Below, an orc raises its cleaver to finish a fallen knight, but the strike never lands. The ice beam crashes down from above, piercing the creature's skull and slamming it into the ground in a violent burst of frost and gore. Helmet immediately grasps the distance and inhuman precision of the shot. Before anyone can react, Dale snaps his reins and sends his horse leaping off the ridge, sliding down toward the fight. Sir Helmet shouts in alarm, demanding to know where the young master is going, but Duke Saxon stops him with a raised hand. He watches Dale descend in silence, newly fascinated. Creating an original magic formula at that age, one with such destructive kinetic force, reveals terrifying potential. As Dale charges toward the fallen knight, Duke Saxon realizes the boy's internal magic system is already nearing perfection. A massive orc steps forward, red eyes burning as it looms over the battlefield. Behind it, the remaining horde regroups into a wall of muscle and steel. From his saddle, Dale analyzes the situation with cold clarity. He identifies two flaws. His body froze in panic during his fall, and his spell formulas are far too long for close combat. As the orc advances on the wounded soldier, Dale realizes he can't afford the full Ice Magnum incantation. It's inefficient. His thoughts jump to mathematics, how complex equations can be reduced to elegant results. If formulas can be simplified on paper, magic can be stripped to its core. A confident smirk appears. Blue mana surges as he compresses it tightly and issues a single command. Ice Bullet. A focused beam of freezing energy slams down from above, piercing the orc's skull and dropping the giant instantly. The soldier stares up in disbelief, stammering as he asks why the young master would risk himself for a mere retainer. Dale dismounts, his boots hitting stone as his cape flutters. With a gaze both gentle and commanding, he tells the man not to worry. House Saxon never abandons a loyal sword. A guttural roar shatters the moment. Another orc charges from the shadows, jagged blade raised. Dale steps forward, placing himself between the beast and the soldier. The air shifts from icy blue to ominous purple as dark energy gathers at his fingertips. Shadow Blade. A crescent of pure darkness erupts from his hand, slicing through the charging orc and carving a glowing line straight through its torso. Dale's expression darkens. His eyes lose all warmth as he whispers to the swirling shadows, "Consume them." The purple energy morphs into a massive skeletal maw, clamping down on the corpse. Bone and flesh are pulverized in seconds before a spotless skeleton is spat onto the cavern floor. The final enemy freezes in terror. Dale tilts his head, his innocent smile returning as if nothing happened. He asks why it's still standing, then casually fires another ice bullet, ending it with a dull thud. Silence fills the cavern. Dale turns back to the injured soldier, his bravado fading as the injured soldier laughs breathlessly and admits his legs won't move anymore. Thunderous hooves echo from the tunnel entrance as Uncle Helmet arrives in full armor, leading the reinforcements. Dale leans against the soldier and leaves the aftermath to his uncle. Helmet draws his sword and roars an order for the cavalry to charge in the name of House Saxon and their young master. Later, night settles over the Saxon base. Campfires crackle between rows of gray tents, and armored guards stand watch. Inside the command tent, tension hangs thick. Dale stands before a long table, dwarfed by his father. The Duke acknowledges the successful subjugation of the orcs, then coldly demands to know why Dale charged into enemy lines alone. Sweat beads down Dale's temple under that crushing gaze. Confused as to why he's being scolded after a victory, he straightens and explains that he acted as a future leader of House Saxon, just as his father taught him. The Duke listens, then scoffs. He calls Dale's reasoning weak. The words hit hard. Frustration boils over as Dale challenges him, demanding to know why he stood by and watched a knight die without intervening. The Duke rises, towering over the table, and delivers the brutal truth. On the Northern Demon King's front lines, knights face endless hordes. Those who draw their swords cannot do so expecting to be saved. The Duke's expression hardens as he delivers his verdict. He admits he hoped Dale would save the knight, but points out the fatal mistake. By intervening, Dale taught those who must survive through their own strength that someone might come to save them. The Duke asks how many knights with that mindset live long enough to matter, and the silence answers for him. Dale lowers his head, the color draining from his face as the logic sinks in. Looking down from above, the Duke explains that the knights of his land must sharpen themselves endlessly against constant threats. Only when they reach their absolute limit does he step in. That, he declares, is the true duty of their house. Dale can't argue. It's a cruel truth he understood in his previous life but forgot in the moment. Then a heavy hand lands on his shoulder. Dale flinches, only to find his father's expression completely softened. The Duke smiles and praises Dale's will, telling him never to lose that spirit. Relief replaces the tension as Dale nods in quiet understanding. The Duke opens the tent flap, sunlight flooding in, and announces it's time to return to the castle. Days later, the incident becomes legend. Across the empire, storytellers spread the tale of the young ducal heir who charged into a monster horde to save a single knight. With each retelling, the story grows, until people claim he slaughtered 1,000 orcs alone. Walking through the market in a hooded cloak, Dale pulls it low over his face, cheeks burning as he listens to the wildly exaggerated praise. Still, the event changes the duchy. At the training grounds, everything feels different. When Dale arrives, the knights stop instantly, drop to one knee, and salute him with thunderous respect. Blushing, Dale tries to wave it off, insisting it's unnecessary, but their eyes show it isn't the rumors they honor, it's his courage. "Stand proud, young Master Dale," Helmet declares, standing beside him with a broad, encouraging grin, his armored presence radiating confidence beneath the warm daylight. Helmet raises his fist. "For the future of young Master Dale, we must become even stronger. You got it?" The soldiers roar back in unison, fists raised high. Dale stands small among the armored giants, overwhelmed by their passion, managing only a nervous but grateful smile. The cheers fade as a maid approaches. She bows politely. "Young Master Dale, the guests from House Orhart have arrived." Helmet's tone shifts at once. "Thank you." He looks down at Dale. "Shall we go, young master?" Dale nods, anticipation lighting his face. As they walk, his thoughts turn to House Orhart. He remembers the stories of Marshal House Orhart and its patriarch, Bardell, the legendary sword. Once a legendary noble of the Teutonia kingdom, Bardell and his house were destroyed when the Empire's unification war reduced their glory to ashes. Dale glances up and notices sweat sliding down Helmet's temple. The knight's jaw is tight, his usual cheer gone. Dale realizes Helmet is remembering the legendary sword, the man who guided him into knighthood, and that this meeting is likely painful for him. They reach the grand audience hall, its massive doors already open. Inside, Duke Saxon and the Duchess sit upon their thrones. "You're right on time," the Duke says. "You trained again today, didn't you?" "Yes, father," Dale answers with a respectful bow. "The guests have arrived," the Duke continues, gesturing forward. "Escort them properly." Footsteps echo across the polished floor as two figures enter without attendants, a clear sign of their fallen status. A young girl in a white military tunic walks slightly behind a woman dressed in mourning black, her face hidden beneath a veil. The fact that they traveled here alone speaks volumes. The woman curtsies deeply, hand over her chest. "I, Vanessa Orhart, humbly greet Duke Saxon." The Duke calmly welcomes them as Vanessa introduces her daughter, Charlotte Orhart. Charlotte lifts her head, revealing striking teal eyes filled not with warmth, but barely contained rage. Her fists are clenched as she struggles just to call Vanessa mother, unable to hide her resentment. Dale notices her intense glare, confused. Vanessa sharply scolds her for refusing to bow properly, but Charlotte trembles and repeats her mother's name, her pride refusing to bend. Before things worsen, the Duke steps in with sympathy, acknowledging their hardships and asking Dale to escort Charlotte around the castle to ease the tension. Dale agrees immediately and approaches her with a polite smile, extending his hand. Before he can finish speaking, Charlotte screams for him not to touch her and violently slaps his hand away. The sharp sound echoes through the hall as Dale freezes in shock. Duke Saxon, the Duchess, and even Helmet recoil. Charlotte stands there shaking, tears forming as she spits out an insult about shameless imperial nobles. Vanessa panics and demands she apologize, but Charlotte turns and runs for the exit, fleeing the hall. Dale snaps out of his daze and chases after her. Back in the audience chamber, the atmosphere grows heavy. Vanessa, dressed in mourning, bows deeply and apologizes for her daughter's behavior, explaining that recent events have left her emotionally unstable. The Duchess gently asks what happened. Vanessa reveals that a new overseer, Count Brandenburg, known across the Empire as the Holy Knight, was assigned to their territory. Despite his reputation, he is infamously called the Pig King. She explains that he seeks to produce powerful heirs by violating talented swordsmen, even targeting Charlotte, who is still underage. Her voice trembles as she recalls Charlotte barely escaping before he could touch her. Though her daughter survived, the trauma remains. As a fallen noble, Vanessa admits she lacks the power to protect her. She desperately begs House Saxon to accept Charlotte as a maid, believing it's the only way to keep her safe from that monster. Meanwhile, Charlotte wanders alone into the frozen training grounds, clutching a sheathed rapier as snow blankets the silent wooden dummies. Dale finds her there and calls out, but she barely responds, her eyes distant. When he asks where she's going, she coldly says she doesn't care. Puzzled but gentle, Dale approaches. Charlotte notes his wringing hands. She asks if his hand is hurt. Dale said it's good. Dale watches her go, noticing the redness around her eyes. Despite her hostility, he realizes she's still just a child, one clearly haunted by what she's been through. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Charlotte snaps around, all traces of lethargy gone. In one smooth motion, she draws her rapier, the blade cutting through the air and leaving a streak of blue energy as she drops into a battle stance. "Then fight me," she declares, pointing the tip straight at him. Dale blinks, stunned by the sudden hostility. Charlotte's eyes blaze with desperate intensity as she shouts, "Dale of House Saxon, draw your sword." "What?" Dale mutters, sweat forming on his brow despite the cold. He can't believe it. The girl who was crying moments ago is now openly challenging him to a duel. Charlotte points her rapier at Dale and demands a duel. Wrapped in a heavy cloak, Dale meets her challenge with calm amusement, saying he won't fight without a reason. She explains she's come because of the rumors, stories of a legendary warrior who supposedly slaughtered 1,000 orcs to save a fallen knight. Inside his mind, Dale imagines an overblown heroic farce and nearly laughs at the absurd exaggeration. Charlotte then reveals her real goal. She intends to defeat the man rumored to be unmatched in the Empire to prove her strength, but her ambition runs deeper. She claims she must become strong enough to protect her house from that man. The words wipe the smile from his face. When she names him, the truth becomes clear. Count Brandenburg, the Holy Swordsman. Dale instantly recognizes the name. The image of the Holy Swordsman ignites deep hatred within him. Brandenburg is the Empire's loyal hound and the traitor who betrayed him. Realizing they share the same enemy, Dale sees potential in her, whether as a pawn or an ally. But first, she needs to understand the vast difference between them. He shifts his stance and looks down at her with a chilling smile, mocking her as a child who knows nothing of the world. He dares her to attack with everything she has. She doesn't hesitate. Green light erupts from her rapier as she lunges. Her blade moves in a blur, carving emerald arcs through the air. Dale meets her strike head-on, steel crashing against steel as sparks scatter across the snow. She unleashes a relentless barrage, but he calmly parries every blow, his eyes tracking her movements. He notices how she redirects force with precise wrist motions, and senses the aura reinforcing her strikes, allowing her to wield a weapon far heavier than her frame should permit. As they move across the frozen ground, he understands her power. Just as mages generate mana through a circle in their heart, knights accumulate aura within their bodies to surpass human limits. She is a true knight. Believing she has the advantage, the girl forces her blade forward, sweat dripping as the battle blurs with memories. She recalls her mother's stories of the father she never met. She remembers her vow to protect their house as the daughter of the legendary sword. Endless days of striking a wooden post flood her mind. Even after her kingdom fell and her house was destroyed, her sword never stopped. Driven by that past, she pours everything into one desperate strike, unable to understand why her blade feels unbearably heavy. Charlotte charges like a raging storm, her rapier wrapped in surging aura, her face twisted with resolve. Yet every attack is effortlessly deflected. No matter how fiercely she strikes, Dale stands like an immovable wall. Confusion and frustration tear at her mind. Why is every opening she creates instantly shut down? Sparks burst again as their blades clash. Dale's movements are precise and economical, making Charlotte's desperate flurry look chaotic. He senses the disorder in her rhythm and realizes the truth. She isn't just fighting him. She's struggling against a reality she refuses to accept. Charlotte lets out a strained scream and throws everything she has into one final reckless thrust. Dale steps forward with cold precision. With a sharp twist of his wrist, he catches her blade and wrenches it upward, ripping the rapier from her grip. The sword spins through the freezing air as time seems to slow. Charlotte reaches out in panic, her fingers closing on nothing, her identity as the legendary sword's daughter slipping away with the hilt. The rapier crashes into the snow, standing upright like a grave marker. Charlotte drops to her knees. The adrenaline fades, leaving her shaking and hollow. Staring at the ground, she asks why she can never win. Dale stands over her, his cape fluttering, and answers without mercy. She is not the legendary sword himself. Tears well as she clutches her head, crushed by a legacy she cannot bear. Dale's tone softens, but his words do not. He tells her that pride in her bloodline isn't wrong, but pride alone cannot protect her house from the man they both fear. The Holy Swordsman was peerless, and she simply does not have that strength yet. Her tears spill as she looks up and asks the only thing left to ask: what must she do? Dale's expression shifts from warrior to lord. He swears on the name of House Saxon that he will protect House Orhart. Charlotte freezes in shock. Dale pulls her sword from the snow and offers it back to her, hilt first. He promises that until she becomes strong enough to defeat their enemy herself, House Saxon will be her shield. When she asks why he would do this, he smiles warmly and tells her that her sword, her potential, is worth it. There is one condition: she must swear to become a sword for him and for House Saxon. Wiping her face, Charlotte kneels and takes her rapier. With unwavering resolve, she swears on her honor as a knight. What might look like a childish vow between nobles becomes an unbreakable oath. Later, beneath moonlight in the Duke's office, Dale is questioned. The Duke notes that Charlotte accepted a position as a maid in House Saxon without complaint and asks what happened between them. Dale calmly replies that they made a promise. He admits he pledged House Saxon's protection to House Orhart. The Duke narrows his eyes, asking if this was done out of pity. Dale denies it and reveals his true aim: Charlotte's legendary sword bloodline and her exceptional talent. He didn't offer charity. He invested in future power. The Duke smiles in satisfaction. A new legendary sword will rise under his roof, dealing a decisive blow to his rival, Brandenburg. Far away in Malberg, the Lord of Brandenburg explodes in rage. A wineglass shatters as he demands to know how they failed to capture a single girl. His subordinate stammers that the assassins were slaughtered, likely by Charlotte herself. The Lord dismisses them in disgust. He approaches a display case holding the holy sword Durandal. Gripping the hilt, his fury twists into obsession. He whispers to the blade, promising to secure a perfect heir at any cost. Then he orders the Thieves' Guild to be contacted. Price is irrelevant. Charlotte must be taken. A week later, within the Duke's estate, Charlotte adapts to her new life. She studies relentlessly and undergoes strict maid training, but her combat training continues. On the snowy training grounds, she and Dale face each other with weapons drawn. Helmet asks if they are ready. Dale smiles confidently. Charlotte tightens her grip on her rapier and exhales sharply. At the signal to begin, the two children explode into motion. Steel crashes against steel, sparks flying as they clash in the snow. Watching with a tense frown, Helmet wonders if this can even be called a children's duel. Their technique isn't fully refined, but their speed and killing intent are unmistakable. They move like blurs, trading precise, lethal strikes. Dale faints, spinning as his cloak snaps through the air, attacking from an unexpected angle. Charlotte reacts just in time, barely raising her guard to block. The The duel ends abruptly. With a single motion, Helmut intercepts the final strike, catching the blade with his gauntleted hand. The clash stops, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing. "Excellent," Helmut declares. Turning to the girl, he nods in approval. "Well done, Lady Charlotte." Charlotte doesn't accept the praise. Cold and dissatisfied, she tightens her grip on her rapier. She asks him directly what she's lacking. Helmut's tone shifts. He asks if she knows the true essence of the rapier. She answers confidently that it's thrusting. He immediately denies it. The essence, he explains, is footwork. He breaks down the exchange, pointing out that when Dale dodged her thrust and closed the distance, she should have retreated and waited for another opening. He adds that excessive arm extension causes the blade to shake and lose accuracy, and concludes that her fundamentals need to be rebuilt. Charlotte is stunned. Helmut continues, stating that her posture and footwork have been flawed for some time. Embarrassed, she admits she's never had a proper teacher. Helmut assures her that now he'll correct her unusual thrusting stance. The wording hits her a second later, and she panics. Helmut bursts into booming laughter, amused by her reaction. Dale watches from behind, nervously hoping she doesn't lose her temper. Helmut pats her head, saying he was only teasing her because her reaction was cute. As he laughs, Dale studies him carefully. He knows Helmut isn't just a friendly giant, he's one of the continent's 7 swordmasters. With guidance like that, Charlotte's growth will be explosive. Dale feels a competitive spark ignite. If he doesn't push himself, she may catch up sooner than expected. Forming mana circles is notoriously difficult. A mage must sense the flow of mana through the heart, stabilize it, and engrave that flow into the body. For most, creating even one circle takes decades. In a snowy clearing, Cephia stands frozen in shock. He has already formed his second circle. Dale explains calmly. Mana circle strength is measured in RPM. A typical first circle mage reaches around 300 RPM. Dale's first circle spins at 2000 RPM, while his newly formed second circle is already stable at 400 RPM. Since 300 RPM is enough to start forming the next circle, he already qualifies to begin a third. He decides to test his new capacity immediately. Raising his hand, blue mana crackles as he enhances an existing spell. He reinforces the molecular structure of the ice to increase its mass and hardness, then forms a large ethereal barrel around it to boost rotation and velocity. The magic circle flares to life. Ice bullet, armor-piercing bullet. He fires. The projectile screams through the air and smashes into a massive tree, drilling clean through it and the stone behind it. When the mana disperses, a perfectly round hole remains, opening straight to the sky beyond. The clearing falls silent. Sophia can only whisper in disbelief, asking what just happened. Dale examines the hole, satisfied. The added circle made high-level modifications far easier than expected. Sophia regains her composure and praises him, calling him a fast learner. Dale bows and thanks her sincerely. As she watches him, memories surface, him saving a knight from an orc horde, and how he handled Charlotte. Despite his age, his competence is frightening. He uses his power responsibly, but the scale of his potential is terrifying. She taps his nose gently, thinking that while he scares her sometimes, he inspires even greater trust. Then she pulls him into a tight embrace, snow falling around them. She whispers that he is truly her proud student. Dale freezes as his master suddenly hugs him, his cheeks burning red at the unexpected contact. The memory lingers, leaving him flustered and uncomfortable. Realizing she's far too casual with physical affection, he decides the only way to clear his head is training in the freezing dawn. In the silent ducal courtyard, blanketed in snow and painted in blue and white, Dale forces himself to focus. He tells himself this is no time for distractions. Raising his hand, mana flares in his eyes as he commands the snow to rise. Jagged walls of ice erupt from the ground, forming a defensive barrier. But he doesn't stop there. He summons a massive shard of ice in the air, then shatters it mid-air into dozens of deadly fragments. The shards rain down like buckshot, striking the ground in a precise, lethal spread. When the spell ends, Dale analyzes the result. The area damage is effective, but he notes that next time he should concentrate the mana like a solid slug for maximum impact. Suddenly, a voice calls his name. Dale spins around in surprise to see Charlotte holding a rapier. She's been watching him practice. She explains she's been training her footwork under Sir Helmut, and Dale notes her dedication to swordsmanship. After an awkward pause, she apologizes for her earlier behavior, bowing her head and stumbling over formal titles as she scolds herself for being rude. Her sincerity catches Dale off guard. Instead of being offended, he smiles and tells her he forgives her, asking her not to be so formal. Relief floods her face, and the tension between them completely disappears. They talk quietly, bonding over their shared love of the cold weather and late-night training. Leaning against a tree side by side, Dale realizes how rare it is to find someone who understands his comfort in solitude and harsh climates. The warmth he feels has nothing to do with magic. From the manor above, the Duke and Duchess watch them through a window. The Duke remarks on how quickly their son is growing up. The Duchess smiles, already deciding that it's her duty as a mother to guide this budding relationship and ensure it flourishes. Not long after, the Duchess walks among the commoners, distributing bread and offering kind words. Though she performs her charitable duties with grace, her thoughts remain focused on her son's future. In the slums, she dedicates herself to relief work, handing out food and opportunities to the poor. Following her example, Dale and Charlotte help distribute bread. Suddenly, a filthy, desperate young boy rushes up and clings to Charlotte's arm, begging for help. Through tears, he claims his mother is dying and needs immediate aid. Against his better judgment, they follow the boy deep into the slums. As they move through narrow alleys, Dale grows increasingly suspicious. The nights are far behind, the path feels like a trap, and the boy chose to approach Charlotte instead of any adult. Looking up, Dale spots a hooded figure watching from the rooftops. He recognizes the uniform instantly, Thieves' Guild. At that moment, Dale realizes the truth. There is no sick mother. Charlotte is the real target. The boy finally stops in a secluded courtyard, pointing into the shadows and claiming he needs to fetch his mother. But the fear in his voice gives him away, confirming everything Dale already knows. The trap snaps shut. Heavy boots block the alley exit as 3 armed men step from the shadows. Their leader, a lanky man with green hair and a mocking grin, twirls a dagger and pretends to worry about children wandering into danger. Then his eyes lock onto Charlotte. He says they only want the girl, and that the boy is just trash to be thrown away. Charlotte stiffens in fear, but Dale steps in front of her. Hidden beneath his bangs, he smiles coldly and introduces himself with dramatic flair as Dale of Saxon, swearing to protect Charlotte Orhart from low-born scum like them. His words hang like a challenge. The thugs laugh. The green-haired leader mocks Dale's noble chivalry and says he chose the wrong time to play hero. With a flick of his hand, he orders the attack. Charlotte grips Dale's sleeve and whispers that she left her sword behind. Dale calmly tells her not to worry. This is exactly what he wanted. Turning back to the attackers, he prepares to test his new shadow cloak technique under the excuse of self-defense. As the men charge, Dale releases his restrained power. Violet-black energy erupts from his body, flooding the alley. The thugs hesitate, mistaking the crushing pressure for wind as the air turns cold and thick with living shadows. Dale watches the leader's face twist in terror as he realizes what kind of power this is. He screams for his men to dodge, but it's too late. The shadows explode outward, sealing the alley and surging like a tidal wave. One thug is swallowed whole as darkness consumes him mid-charge, his scream cut short. This is Shadow Cloak's second circle application. Instead of concealment, the shadows act as a parasite, implanting undeath directly into the host. The darkness expands inside the man until a grotesque, fanged maw bursts from his torso. He screams as sentient shadows seize control, transforming him into an undead abomination. The green-haired leader freezes as the shadows merge into a massive skeletal monster towering over the alley. The creature lets out a piercing, inhuman shriek, vibrating the stone walls with hunger. Realizing he's facing forbidden undeath magic, the green-haired leader panics and orders his men to destroy the monster. While they rush the abomination, he targets Dale instead. Noble heir or not, the boy will die in one strike. He launches himself off the alley walls, daggers glowing neon green as he descends with aura-infused assassination techniques. Energy slashes tear downward, but shadows instantly rise and swallow the attack whole. The green-haired leader lands, cursing as his confidence shatters. Before he can attack again, Dale moves first. A blue magic circle spins at his fingertip, manifesting a spell modeled after a firearm. Double-barrel, 12-gauge buckshot. Blasts of condensed light fire forward like a point-blank shotgun. The impact is catastrophic. The green-haired leader is ripped through the air, blood spraying as he crashes hard onto the cobblestones. From the shadows, Charlotte watches, trembling as she whispers Dale's name. The green-haired leader coughs blood and barely forces himself upright, stunned that he's still alive. Dale observes calmly, noting that aura users are tougher than normal men. Refusing to surrender, the green-haired leader screams and launches one final desperate strike from above. But the power of Dale's shadows was stronger than his. Dale walks forward as the shadow beast behind him massacres the remaining soldiers, shrieking about its endless hunger. Amid the slaughter, Dale reaches Charlotte and gently asks if she's hurt. She nods, shaken but safe. Silence falls over the alley. Corpses litter the stones. Only one assassin remains, stumbling backward in sheer terror as Dale calmly holds Charlotte's hand. The man turns to flee, screaming. Dale raises his hand and casts a frost spell. An ice bullet slams into the assassin, dropping him with a scream. A massive purple shadow rises over him like a demon, but Dale orders it back. The creature fades, leaving the man groveling and begging for his life, promising information. The shadows beneath him form a grinning maw, mocking his desperation. The assassin nods frantically, until Dale coldly says he doesn't care. Before the man can finish pleading, dark energy crushes his skull instantly. Blood splashes the stones. Dale turns away as if crushing an insect, adjusting his collar. Charlotte follows, glancing once at the corpse. As they walk through the aftermath, Dale tells her what she saw is the true face of House Saxon, the horror the world fears. He says this power exists to protect her and asks if it frightens her. Charlotte clutches her chest, looks away, and admits softly that she is a little afraid. Charlotte's fear fades. She looks up and smiles, realizing Dale's ruthlessness was used only to protect her. She remembers the day she swore loyalty to him, kneeling with a rapier in hand, and reaffirms that vow amid the battlefield's aftermath. If his house will be the shield that protects hers, then she will repay that debt. Pressing a hand to her chest, she declares that one day she will become the sword that swings for his sake. Dale is caught off guard by her conviction. She thanks him for showing her a future and promises to grow even stronger. As Dale meets her gaze, his stoic mask cracks with quiet introspection. Unaware to Charlotte, his decision to take her in stems from deep guilt over Sir Bardel's fate 24 years earlier. When he clasps her hand, he realizes her choice carries far more weight than he expected. Far away, in Count Brandenburg's estate, the Count sits in his library, gripping his quill in fury as he curses the failure of his assassination attempt. In his hands is an invitation from the Noir Duke. polite in wording, but unmistakably a summons he cannot refuse, even with his status as the Holy Swordsman. Enraged and powerless, he slams his desk. Days later, inside Saxon ducal castle, the Count stands before the throne with his knights. The Duke sits casually, unreadable, with 2 children standing beside him. He thanks the Count for coming and apologizes for the humble welcome. The Count forces laughter, then pretends concern over rumors of a kidnapping, loudly denying any involvement. The Duke ignores him, until the air suddenly shifts. His eyes glow violet. Dark mana coils around his hand, and overwhelming pressure explodes through the hall. The Count's knights are crushed and hurled aside by invisible force. A glowing purple magic circle forms, the Tempest of Nihil. Realizing the spell, the Count panics as the Duke commands him to kneel. The pressure intensifies. The Count tries to resist, invoking his title, but his leg gives out and he is forced to the floor. Humiliated and terrified, he realizes he has gravely misjudged the Duke. Seated calmly above him, the Duke delivers his ultimatum. He claims this summons was for peace, but if the Count ever lays a hand on the children of House Saxon again, House Brandenburg will be completely erased. The threat is absolute. Moments later, the Duke withdraws his aura and offers hospitality. The Count refuses, scrambling to leave as fast as possible. As the doors close behind him, the significance of what young Dale witnessed becomes clear. This was not just intimidation. It was the spark of a future war. The image of the Holy Swordsman kneeling will spread across the empire, igniting chaos, burning cities, and sealing his eventual execution. Later, in the Duke's private office, Sophia stands nervously as Duke Saxon uncovers a table of corpses. They are Thieves' Guild members who attacked Dale, bodies twisted, crushed, and pierced with lethal precision. The Duke states calmly that Dale did this himself. Horrified, Sophia begins to question whether her teachings have helped create a monster. Turning to her, the Duke explains that guiding Dale's overwhelming talent will require wisdom. He then offers her the position of chief advisor. Sophia lowers her hands, her thoughts racing. The Duke isn't just asking her to remain a tutor, he's asking her to become part of House Saxon itself. His gaze leaves no room for refusal as he explains that Dale relies on her, and that even he cannot guide the boy alone. If she stands by Dale's side, everything will change. After a moment, Sophia bows her head and accepts. She understands now that her duty goes far beyond magic or etiquette. Her true role is to guide a terrifyingly powerful child away from the abyss. Learning how Dale sees the world becomes her most important task, and she can't shake the image of a small boy casting an impossibly large shadow. Time passes, and Dale's 10th birthday arrives. The celebration is held in a grand ballroom glowing beneath crystal chandeliers. Unlike last year, the hall is packed with high-ranking nobles, including envoys from the Emperor's court, a clear sign of House Saxon's growing influence. Among the guests, one man immediately stands out. With fiery red hair, a white suit, and a crimson cloak, Marquis Eurus steps forward and locks eyes with Dale. He greets the boy with an easy smile. Known as Lord Crimson, Eurus is the master of the Red Tower, an infamous mage faction obsessed with power, order, and ruthless strength. Dark rumors follow them, including forbidden rituals and the modification of living bodies. Earlier that evening, the banquet had been filled with laughter, lavish food, and whispered amazement at the wealth of the Northern Territory. But beneath the celebration lay tension. Nobles from the Emperor's faction had arrived in force, their presence serving as a silent warning. As Dale observed them, their shadows felt like watchful eyes. The message was clear. The imperial family would not tolerate any disrespect toward the Holy Swordsman, and Eurus is their messenger. He praises Dale as a once-in-a-generation prodigy, repeating rumors that the boy wiped out an entire orc horde at just 9 years old. Dale responds with a flawless smile and polite thanks, then walks away before the conversation can deepen. Behind his calm exterior, dread coils. In his past life, he was once a victim of the Red Tower's experiments. He knows exactly what kind of monster hides behind Eurus's charm. Escaping the stifling ballroom, Dale steps onto the snowy terrace, loosening his collar. These birthdays feel more exhausting every year. He would rather be training. His thoughts drift to Charlotte, now officially serving as Elena's maid. He longs to spar with her but knows exposing the daughter of the legendary sword would invite danger. Left with no choice, he considers practicing alone. Then a terrified scream shatters the silence. Dale freezes before sprinting toward the garden. In the shadows, a grotesque noble pins a maid to the ground, a dagger pressed to her throat. She begs for mercy, invoking House Saxon, but the man mocks her, confident no one will interfere during the celebration. He threatens to slit her throat if she resists and treats the assault as his right. Footsteps approach. Dale appears. The maid cries his name in desperation. The noble, Petro, briefly falters before regaining his arrogance. Seeing only a child, he pulls the maid closer and mocks Dale, even offering to teach him about women with a vile grin. Dale ignores him completely. He calmly reassures the maid and raises his hand. A glowing blue magic circle forms instantly, and Petro's confidence collapses into panic. Condensed magic erupts into a bullet of crystalline force, blasting Petro away with precise, concussive power, separating him from his victim without killing him. As Petro crashes back, Dale steps forward without hesitation, fully aware of what he's done. In a world ruled by rigid hierarchy, he has just attacked a representative of the Emperor, and he does not regret it. Petro slams into the grass, stunned and gasping, only to look up and see Dale standing over him without a trace of fear. Dale orders him to kneel. The command is so absurd that Petro freezes, unable to accept a child speaking with such authority. Dale doesn't hesitate. He points at Petro and demands he kneel and apologize to Miss Eve. Humiliation and rage twist Petro's face as he seethes at the insolent brat from House Saxon. Desperate to regain control, Petro declares himself a representative of the Emperor, claiming any insult toward him is treason. Dale remains unmoved and calmly asks if the Emperor enjoys violating maids from noble houses for sport. The question hits like a blade. Petro stiffens, sweating as he stammers in disbelief at the accusation. The disturbance draws nobles from the estate. Among them, Eurus watches with amusement, murmuring that things have become interesting. Ignoring the adults, Dale gives Petro one final warning to kneel. When Duke Saxon demands an explanation, Dale answers without looking away, stating that Petro attempted to assault their maid. Petro tries to stand and fabricate an excuse, but Dale raises his hand, releasing crushing magical pressure that pins him down, coldly asking who allowed him to stand. Facing the gathered aristocrats, Dale speaks with authority beyond his years. He gestures to Petro sprawled on the ground and declares that envoys from the imperial capital act in the Emperor's stead. Petro trembles, pointing weakly at the boy, but cannot speak. Dale continues, stating that Petro defiled a maid and stained the Emperor's name, making punishment unavoidable. By framing the act as treason against imperial honor, Dale shifts the entire political balance. A low laugh breaks the tension. Lord Eurus praises Dale's sharp tongue and agrees with his judgment. Dale finishes his condemnation, staring down at the disgraced man. Realizing his fate, Petro looks to Eurus in terror. Eurus raises his hand as flames ignite in his palm and casually orders Petro to burn. Panic overtakes Petro as he crawls backward, screaming for mercy. Eurus offers none. Golden fire erupts and engulfs him, lighting the garden in a blinding inferno as Petro's screams echo before vanishing into the flames. When the fire fades, nothing remains. Unbothered, Eurus turns to Dale and states that he spoke only the truth, declaring it his duty to purge those who disgrace the Empire. He then smiles with predatory interest and says he looks forward to Dale's future. Dale meets his gaze without flinching, his blue eyes burning with silent resolve. As the sun sinks, the chaos fades and silence settles over House Saxon. With the Emperor's envoys gone, Duke Saxon stands firm beside Dale, watching them leave.